I am very grateful for modern amenities like air conditioning, I tell you what. But, you know, we were kind of talking about this before I started up the video. I do want to speak to this. I have had a lifelong relationship with heat that has involved being in a house that did not have air conditioning until 2022. It's a very well-designed house. If you shut everything up, etc., in general, it does really well, and you open it on a cool night. But of course, as we know, some of these nights, you know, they're not cool. They're swampy. And what I recognize now that I have AC, I'm reminded of how much of my life force I spent thinking about how I was gonna stay cool. Do you know what I mean? I was like, okay, I'm gonna boil water in the morning to make my tea. I'm gonna cook some food. Do you know what I mean? It was all about how to keep the house cool so that I'd be able to sleep. And I think that's one of the great challenges of challenging weather, whichever direction it goes, is that it tends to really take us out of the present moment. And most of the time, in the present moment, we're fine, right? We may not be 100% comfortable, but we have so much ability to make ourselves basically safe and well. But I just want to speak to that in case a lot of your mental space is occupied with, oh no, because it does make it really hard to appreciate the beauty. And I've kind of been having nature slap me upside the head a little bit, like I said yesterday, going to Third Mountain, the breeze being gorgeous, and all of a sudden I was like, why do I hate this week? Why have I decided that I hate this whole week, you know? This is gorgeous. So in this moment, I'm going to allow myself to just abide in beauty and deliciousness. So whatever's going on in your world, just see if that clicks with anything, if your kind of present moment joy is being robbed by the weather or really by anything else or your thoughts about it. We're going to start off on our back bodies. We're going to raise our hips and bring that block under the sacral triangle, unless that does not work for you. Occasionally there are people for whom that is just creates an ouch. But we're going to start there to just invite that gentle reopening of the front line. And so we know that we've got those two very distinct positions with the knees bent and the legs straight. I really like hanging out with knees bent first, and especially if the block is low enough on the body, so not in the arch of the back, you can really feel the ability to elongate and decompress through those low vertebrae. And of course, please bring breath to it. We can start with sighing breaths. You might start with Ujjayi. One of the most powerful things about doing yoga over time is we become more intimate with what tools are most useful for us. As you begin tuning into your breath, you might turn your gaze up and in towards that third eye. When sighing breaths are complete, you might connect tip of the tongue, roof of the mouth, just behind the front teeth. All of these help say, I am here in this present moment, this body, this breath. Really giving yourself to gravity, an intentional melting and sinking in. And if, in fact, you recognized when I was talking that, yeah, I've been kind of compressed or kind of dreading or kind of, use this moment to thoughtfully just strip that away. Maybe you imagine your Ujjayi or the wind just kind of dusting all of that off, and you feel a softening through your eyebrows, your jaw. Just becoming more liquid, spacious, receptive. When you feel complete with that exercise of the block underneath and opening the front line, please come off the block and tuck knees to belly to nice stretch through the back line. And as you're there, if you roll a little side to side, just notice what is there. Sometimes I'm shocked by how much tension I might be carrying through low back into the glutes. This is a great one for releasing and decompressing, as is our ragdoll. And as you're ready, I'm going to invite you to just keep a hold of your right knee, extend left leg into release wind pose. Both heels flexed, shoulder head sliding down the back. So notice if yours habitually curl forward in towards the chest. That will be pretty common. And if you're like me, I pretty much have to check myself every pose and throughout my day. And in this position of shoulders anchored down, you might notice there's a freedom in the neck. So what would it be like to just roll the head side to side, explore that freedom, and of course note any crispy held stuck places. And then I'm going to have you rotate your face as far to the left as you can. Bring your arm out to the left, your left arm, and take your knee to the right. Big inhale. See if you can bring your knee higher up towards your armpit. Keep pressing further away through your left heel. Lovely. And then as you're ready, I'm going to have you bring your leg in and cross your right ankle on your left thigh. So it's just a little different than we sometimes do this little knee wag. I'm going to wag my right knee. We do this often in our prep for reclined pigeon. But when you feel done with that little wag, just go ahead and straighten your leg and you're in corpse pose. Yeah, you can take it to the ceiling and do that leg release for core work, absolutely. A reminder, this is your practice. So as your body asks for things, be like, I can give you that. Lovely. Let's guide the left knee into the belly release wind pose. Again, shoulders anchoring, neck liquid. Keep reaching away through the right heel, powering down through that right thigh and hip flexor lengthening. And then taking that knee out to the left, right arm out for a little bit of stability. And we're going to rotate our face away from the knee. You can go back and forth if you like. Again, anytime organic movement comes along, it tends to really progress the release of just stored patterns. And as you're ready, bring that left ankle onto the top of right thigh. And enjoy a little wag. And in your own time, bring it on back to center, either just coming into corpse or if you like, extending to the ceiling. Breath, initiating motion. Inhale, find the gap. Exhale, find the gap. And on your next exhale, inviting you to then hold out for abdominal pumping. Empty the breath completely and draw the belly in and press out. And draw in and press out until you need to breathe. Belly pumping can be really awesome for our digestive organs, our spine. Just notice, we're going to do a few rounds. If it's feeling like intense, you may take your hand to where that intensity is and just notice and kind of gently inquire within. And we'll do, like I said, another couple of rounds. So big inhale, exhale, empty, hold the breath out, and begin. I often feel a stretch up into my clavicle. Does anybody else get that? Yeah, that's the fun of you do a really kind of even slow but very big pumping movement. You might be able to create stretches all up through the sternum and intercostals and more. Pretty cool. Then as you're ready, we're going to just plant the feet and we're going to bring the legs all the way together so that the inner line of the leg is touching. Arms are out to the side. And you're just going to windshield wiper your bent knees left and right. This is a really nice, easy thing you can do in bed. that helps release that sideline of the body. And often we know that sideline is the silent partner for some of what happens in the hip girdle, knees, and so on. So just see what that's like this morning. And as you're ready, come back to center, or you might hold to one side for a breath or two. When you're ready, meet me in center, soles of the feet touch for butterfly as knees open. And then as you're ready, raising the hips a little off the floor. So part of the reason that outside line gets so bloomin' tight is that we're usually weak on that inner line. So this is a nice opportunity to just kind of assess your own body balance and see what you're finding. I rediscovered a solution that I've discovered before. That's why I said rediscovered. I was like, oh yeah, if I just have a jar of water in the refrigerator, that is so lovely. You know, you don't want to drink like ice water. That's just will freeze up your digestive system. But it is so lovely to be able to swirl a little bit of that in my mouth and cool things down. And you know, once you have a glass of water sitting out for a few minutes, then it's not all hot and grody. Oh my God. I find I drink less canned mineral water. I drink less white wine. If I just have that cold water in the fridge, it's just delish. When this feels like you've gotten a really good workout for that deep inner thigh groin, come on down, straighten the legs out but wide. We're going to come into our banana pose. So you're going to cross right ankle onto left. If your feet are just too far apart, you're having to like bend your knee, bring them in a little bit. I'd love you to be able to flex firmly through that right heel and be able to reach up through the right arm. The closer you can keep your arm to the floor, the better. And then slowly bringing it towards the center line as you rotate your face to the left. And then some of us really like the advantages of that pumping, like pulling the elbow back down towards the ribs and reaching, or at least just softening your reach and then intensifying, or maybe even clasping with the left wrist. So now we get to feel that whole side line, right? Lat muscle, anchoring shoulder girdle to hip girdle. I have found this banana stretch, I do it with massage clients. I have found it to be transformational of so many body issues, usually low back, but also hip. Go ahead and uncross, and in your moment of flop, just tune in. What did you create? What are you noticing? And go ahead and cross left ankle onto right thigh. I really like the word flop. Jason kind of brought it back into my vocab. If he's lounging around in the morning or something, he'd be like, I'm just flopping. And I love it because the word just really does say it. It's like an onomatopoeia, right? Just flop. I'm not preparing for anything. Truly in the moment, in my body, with gravity. What is this side like? And again, would it benefit from pumping, small adjustments, bringing the shoulder back towards the mat, or rotating the face away? Always the breath. And thank you. I can hear some nice ujjayi even over the fan. So beautifully done. See if you've got a couple more breaths in there. Remember to cross and then straighten that leg. So that left leg in this case. See if you can get the knee straight, the heel really flexed. And when you're complete, find your flop. Lovely. We're going to come into reclined pigeon. As you know, it's one of my faves. Plant the feet, cross right ankle onto left thigh. Give it a wag if you want another wag. Then bring the whole deal towards you, hugging that right knee. You might raise the left leg off the floor if you can, and then send the whole deal towards the center line. And again, check that shoulders are anchored. And I love this pose that even little movements can be pretty effective. And a nice little organic WD-40 action back and forth until you feel complete. Sometimes after I've come out of pigeon or reclined pigeon, I'll take that leg that was crossed and I'll just send it out to the side in a half straddle with, in this case, my right hand. Can feel so amazing because after stretching through that kind of outer hip thigh, then we let that, again, partnering muscle group, give it a go. And as you're ready, we'll find that other side. And of course, we're always so curious, is this side different? Sometimes we know that one is really different. If this pose is feeling useful, and if it is not already a part of your just daily habit, I'd really love it if you would integrate it. This and our bridge with foot hover, which we're headed there next. Again, enjoy that little opportunity for organic movement, for deepened breath. You know, if we can create an intense edge where you're like, woo, that's spicy, and then take a breath into it, that's often where evolution happens. All right. And in your own time, come on out. Again, maybe you take that leg out to the side. And then we'll come into our bridge with foot hover. Maybe you want to go up and down a couple times in bridge. Bridge is going to be one of our key ways to continually kind of renovate hip girdle. It ignites glute and hamstring strength, and most of us are weak there, and it helps stretch that really tight front. As you're ready for foot hover, remember to kind of power down through the upper arm. So you can always bend the elbows and kind of have the hands facing the ceiling, the fingers, tips, if you will. And as we lift one foot slowly, ideally no drop. Now, if you ever have a thing where you're like, your back is really tweaky and you're like, ow, 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 I have found that just shifting my weight from foot to foot, so not even lifting a foot off the floor, can actually be a part of my back restabilizing. And then we're going to bring knees to belly, and we're going to come to something we haven't done in quite a while. We're going to do our little baby robot. And I want to do that because it targets this very low abdomen. This very low abdomen is a huge part of what supports this very low spine and will help us come into neutral in our pelvis. If we're just tightening up through your kind of your sit-up muscles, we won't. And we don't get the pelvic floor benefit that we get from robot. So as you're ready, I'm going to just ask you to start by bringing both hands around your knees and, one on each knee. Anchor shoulder heads down the back and bring elbows in, right? So we call no wings, no shrugs. Then if you would, flex your feet and bring your knees basically apart but nicely parallel, all right? Take a big, beautiful inhale, big Buddha belly. Exhale, power down through your belly into your low back and your low back into the floor until you can feel that just incredible heft, that power of yours. Keep that heft And keep breathing if you can. Now, it's hard to inhale while you're using these muscles. We've got to retrain ourselves. When you're ready, I'm going to have you take your hands on the fronts of the knees here and take your knees basically until you think they're right above your hip joints. And as you're doing that, I want you to watch what's happening in the back body. Don't let it lift at all. Only you will know. I won't be able to see it. Okay? And I want you to breathe there in neutral a moment. Practice breathing while using those core muscles and staying soft in the neck. And if you need to take a break, you just relax and you come back in. Big inhale, exhale, power down. Take one knee a few inches away from you and just hold. And you're using that hold time to really scan and talk to those muscles of that low belly and see if you can get them to progressively contract and tighten down and in towards your body. Yeah, and then as you're ready, bring that knee back to that neutral starting position, and then you'll send the other one away. I like keeping my hands at the fronts of the thighs as like a stop so that the opposite knee is not coming towards you, because if that's happening, you won't be isolating the low belly, right? And if you're not feeling much, sometimes it's that you're trying to do too big of a movement and you're actually letting your low back or mid back release and you don't realize it. So scan for that. Or if your knees are just too close to you, right? So if you want more intensity, make sure the starting position is knees over hips. If that's too much and you can't root your lower back, then your starting neutral is knees a little closer. Let me know if you want me to swing by. You're looking good. Nobody's straightening their leg or doing anything big. I love it. I appreciate you. And of course, take a break. You might bring knees to belly. Take a break and come in for another round, perhaps. And if your neutral needs to be towards you, power down to that lower back, and that's our neutral. But again, just the one knee. So yeah, just to confirm, your knee going away from you is not to the outside, it's away from you towards your foot. And by now you might be like, and that was enough. Go ahead and relax out of it. Give yourself whatever kind of recovery pose. If it's knees all the way to the belly, some people are going into bridge pose. We're going to do one last, in fact, stretch for the quadricep hip flexors. And I want to give you a choice, actually, to just, maybe you know what's most effective. So either our classic stretch where you're clasping the ankle, or the Elvis dance, where you're letting one knee come down. They're different. They're not exactly the same, but they can achieve a lot of the same effects, right? The Elvis dance works more rotationally. The clasping of the ankle works more straight and linear, right, from knee up into hip. So you might know what you crave most or need most. And I mean, if you decide you want both, I am not going to stop you. When that feels complete, and never rush, we'll take all the time in the world and we'll come up to table pose. So a really great pose for strengthening the back line we've talked about is bridge pose. Another really great one is actually just extending your leg back and making sure that your heel is no higher than your butt. So if you go high like this, now you're just arching your back. Again, it's just like robot, you're compensating. You're trying to do too much. So you want that heel straight back. And what I would like you to do is extend your first leg and then just see if you can almost entirely reduce weight in your hands. If you can do like a little light touch of your fingers together or clap or whatever you want. and then slowly return it. And then we'll take the other leg out and just really hold. And one of the challenges a lot of people have is getting their knee entirely straight. And until your knee is entirely straight, you will not find a balance between quad and hamstrings, and you won't get that glute fire up that we want. Yeah, and see if you rotate your foot straight down, that also changes things. So go ahead and go back and forth a couple times, holding on each side for a couple of breaths so you can really tune in, powering up through your core so that you can lightly clap, for example. You don't have to do the clap. You should just feel there's very little weight. And this is awesome because you are in your core body. There. Nice, nice. All right. We're going to come right into cow-cat. Inhaling, tailbone draws back, heart draws forward. Exhaling, tuck the tailbone and round. So just noticing what's in the front and back line. What does that relationship feel like today? Now we're going to take it up to our first downward facing dog, and we're going to be adding a leg flying. If you know that is just too much for your hands, shoulders, go ahead and just play again with the leg extension. And if you'd like, you could even add opposite limb extension. Okay? And some of these things, one could benefit even just doing them standing a little bit, right? You can really still fire up through that back line. So again, in downward dog, as it was in table, try to keep the toes pointed straight down so you really feel that back line. Heel is flexed. Only in that heel flexion are you really going to be able to fire the glute up completely. Check that knee joint, get it straight. It's like you're a mule kicking a barn, barn door. And switch it out. Love it, you guys. We're coming into a little planked chaturanga. You can just flop on down to your belly if you want. Otherwise, a nice long inhale, powering up through those thighs to the ceiling. Exhaling, you can always drop knees, chaturanga, nice little elbow bend. On our belly, we're extending our arms forward, Superman. Superman, typically, the arms are parallel, but I'm happy if you're feeling any neck tension or shoulder pain, obviously, take those hands wider. Power down through your pelvis. Check that your thigh bones are pointing straight down. Again, that your feet aren't really like rotating out. And on a big inhale, reach long through all four limbs until it just feels natural to come up off the floor. Exhale, return. We're going to do that probably half a dozen times. If it feels like you can have your forehead on the floor when you're returning, then just stay long through the neck. So in other words, resist the temptation to look forward. In and out. Breath, initiating motion. Beautiful. And don't worry if things don't come off the floor, if your arms aren't lifting. Just keep trying to reach long, because it's in that extension that we can actually get the contraction of that back body. Again, some of you are still trying to look forward. Ideally, you should be looking down at your mat like you have a love note there. And you don't want to miss that. Some poem somebody wrote to you. Come on. If you feel up to holding, and don't worry if you don't, you can always meet us in just one at a time jet airplanes, but I'm going to have you swim. So holding in your extension of spine, you're going to sweep your arms back, jet airplane, and then back up. Make sure your shoulder heads are as far away from the floor as they can be, that your palms are facing the floor, not the ceiling. Looking good. And as you're ready, press back to your child's pose, or if you're doing a mostly standing or seated sequence, a little rag doll is a nice release for the low spine. A reminder that using TheraBand to pull back on is just such a great, quick daily way to fire up that back line too. I love it. All right, we're going to come into our forearm plank. So as you're ready, you might just walk onto those forearms. Make sure you get into your core. So think about that same muscular effort you made during robot, right, where you brought belly to spine. And then with that, step back one leg at a time, and then the other. If being on your feet is simply too much, drop to knees. That's a beautiful place to practice. As you guys know, I often ask you to start there anyway. And I'm going to ask you to tune in and try and feel or sense neutral. Heels pressing back, heart drawing forward, not your face, just your heart. And then see if your body kind of settles into a neutral. That looks really good. If you're feeling strong and nothing is like striving or ouch, then I would say you're doing great. All right. Come on out. Rest, flop, maybe windshield wiper lower legs. We're going to be coming up to our feet. If you want to do a little plank to downward dog to get there, hiya, or however you want to do it. And then we'll come up onto our feet. We're going to actually step sideways right away on our mat. Let's face that way since there's actually a couple of blinds open. You can see a little tree action. And side to side. So what have you noticed already this morning about kind of inner and outer, with the inner thigh groin muscles, IT bands up into the hip joints? Can you go wider, and would that feel better? In general, you know, like I'm 5 feet and I've got my feet about 4 feet apart, something like that. To be clear, I'm 5'2" and 3/4", but you know what I mean. Go all the way to one side and hold. If your feet aren't wide enough, your knee is going to be trying to go past your ankle and it'll peel your inner foot away. So that's one way to know, like, actually I need to open my feet wider. Breathe, let the breath tell your body, hey, this is safe. We can release some of our stored patterns, find the other side, really tune into it. And I realize one of the skills that I really want to keep working on is listening well, listening better. And that can start with choosing to hone our inner listening to our body, to our heart, that kind of thing. All right. We're going to come on out, bringing our hands up onto our thighs. Nice support. You can do a little cat back if you want. And then I'm going to ask you to just come up into a nice big like front body stretch. Little glute squeeze, arms back. Chin reaching firmly if that feels okay. And then release into a nice neutral spine. We're going to bring our right arm across for our thread the needle. If your ankles are feeling fatigued, come on in and roll them out. We will be returning for some lunging, so now would be a time to give them a break. So one thing to check, that arm that crossed, see if you can get it pretty straight. So a lot of times people fold it into themselves. Don't do that. Just keep it straight. Then take your hand like at the elbow, or sometimes I hook with my other elbow, and then you walk, kind of press that upper arm in towards you. We don't care how far it gets. We just want the stretch. And then tilting down towards that hand a little bit. And then I'm going to ask you to take your face and rotate and look down towards that hand. And then kind of back up a little. And down. And you can kind of tuck your chin a little in. And up. Those of us who are tight might feel some interesting stuff in that upper right back or whichever arm you were using. Go ahead and release it. Yeah, give it a nice roll out. And we'll cross and press. Again, make sure that shoulder is anchored. Tilting down a little. And then again, exploring movement of the head. So what we often forget or don't really think about is the fact that our spine, connects all the way up into the cranium there in your brain stem, and then all the way down here to the coccyx. And any movement we do at any end really helps create flow and movement all the way up the chain. It's kind of cool. And when you feel ready, release it on out. Good. We're going to come around into Yoga Mudra. Yoga Mudra is one of the poses that actually helped eventually change my shoulders being rotated forward. And I don't think I have any straps here. But I do have a scarf. You got anyone want a strap? Tommy's got an extra. Because what we would like is to make sure that we can get our shoulders down, elbows straight. That alone can be amazing. In the beginning, that is all I needed to get a stretch. But if you've got that and you also have room to explore, take those hands off the hips and return. Now when you're doing that, some of us might go into like an arch. Don't do that. Go ahead and kind of come into your little bit of glute squeeze, low belly towards spine robot. And then you can also rotate a little right or left. You can fold. If you fold, nice deep knee bend. If you're not knee bending, then you're kind of more getting into a hamstring stretch and you won't get the shoulder benefit as much. Lovely. Now sometimes it can be a little dizzying, like after that pose or that stretch, especially if you were in a fold. So take a little moment, come up, kind of reground. Lovely. Now we're going to take our basically index finger, hook on the front of the chin with our thumb underneath. And I want us to, again, have a nice just athletic stance so that, yeah, you feel firmly rooted. And you're going to press your chin back towards the base of the skull. And then take it out like you're a little chicken. Draw it back. And holding in that back position long enough to just really sense where that stretch is growing. Like for me, it's right under the occipital ridge today. Sometimes I feel it in my upper back. And is there anybody who's just feeling nothing with this? Like no stretch at all? Doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. You may just, you know. So when you're coming forward, some of you are kind of coming up. Try to keep it literally on the same plane of motion, like there was a line. Pretty good. It's an interesting experiment, right? So another thing, I'm not going to do this today, but if you know that you have some shoulder forward, head forward, whatever, it would be so helpful to just occasionally, and today might be the day, go and just stand on a wall at home with your butt touching and just see how far away things are. And what does it take to get your head, you know, if your upper back is touching, what does it take to get your head to touch? And if you can't get your head to touch, I mean, without going like that, then there's just so much tension holding your head forward. What's cool is it's not permanent, and I have had this proven over and over again. It's so fun. So we're going to do one of my favorite stretches that you can do to yourself. So you're going to bring your hands onto your skin if you can, and essentially you can either have your hands like both of them like this, or one and then one on top. So depending on your shirt, if it's only like, oh, I can only get one hand in there, just have the other hand on top. But have those fingers spread wide. I'm going to keep mine on top of my shirt so you can see kind of what I'm doing. But essentially you're feeling your skin, you're kind of tractioning. And so you're going to inhale. And on your exhale, I want you to draw down with your fingers and hands and reach up through your chin. Then inhale, return and soften. Exhale, draw down and reach up through the chin. Do that a few more times. At some point when you're in that up position, play with wagging. So then kind of taking your ear a little to the left and then a little to the right. And what you'll feel is some of those scalenes and the sternocleidomastoid that are two of the biggies that hold our head forward. You know, everyone always complains about the back of their neck hurting, but it's usually the muscles at the front and side that are actually pulling out of balance. All right. When that feels complete, you might just want to take your hands back there and kind of love those areas up. One of my favorites is to just take one hand at a time and kind of squeeze, like you're picking up like a little puppy or something. You can do each hand, and if you use your fingers to kind of pull, so if you can take your left hand, for example, onto the back of the neck. I don't know why I did that so hard to myself. It's like, how? Get your fingers to wrap around right here and kind of pull. And if you tilt your right ear down a little, that helps too. So whenever you take something into the softened position, it's easier to then massage and manipulate and get some of those stored tensions out. Because otherwise the body is like, well, I can't soften, I'm holding her head on, you know, or his head on, right? Yeah. Do you guys find some good stuff in there? Yeah? All right. We're going to finish off with this kind of cranium stuff with jaw opening. And it can be really interesting to first just take your fingers and kind of feel around and just notice if there's any like really kind of tight or sensitive spots, especially if you have any sinus stuff with things blooming. Sometimes there's some things that are like, wow, okay, I didn't even know that was there. And then keeping your hands just right in front of your ear, a second, right where your ear joins the cranium. I just want you to feel when you open your jaw, what happens in there. Right? There's a lot of movement, and this is happening all day, every day. And if you're a jaw clencher, then you're building tension constantly through there, but also right through this space of the skull. So I'm going to have you bring your hands around back again now. And I want you to do lion stretch with me. And only if you feel those muscles under your hands kind of pop, only then are you getting your jaw as open as we want it open, right? So big inhale. If you're irritated about anything, this is a great time to just move that on out. You can stick out your tongue. You can furrow up your eyebrow. You can open your eyes really wide. And lastly, you can also draw your tongue way down like someone's using a tongue depressor. And that can really help lubricate and release stuff through the throat tissues too, which again, with allergies and other things, people can get kind of through there. Lovely. All right, we're coming into some nerve flossing, my friends. So if you would just bring your hands into prayer. What's that? Good. Yeah, and then we're going to move into some warriors, and as much as you want, I'm going to be offering you some kind of hand positions to keep flossing, but we'll just do this in an isolated way. So hands are in prayer, shoulders sliding down, and I'm going to ask you to find as much neutrality from your heels up through the crown of your head as you can, right? So notice if your head is dropped forward, notice if you're lifting your chin. It should be like a root and a rise up through your top knot as if you had one. And then as you're ready, ever so just softly and slowly going side to side with prayer hands. And I like to hold at the end of the range and just feel. Let it evolve. Slow, deep and wide breath. You guys are doing nice work. I know sometimes people like try to go really far and then their shoulders going with. Try to keep those shoulders neutral. Very little movement. Just do a couple more. And then we're going to just take the right hand and you're going to pretend you're holding a tray of drinks. And you're going to simply dump your tray and return. So if you're like me and you tend to like want to just always do it big, you might be doing funky things like rotating the shoulder head forward. Don't do that. Just stay nice and neutral and just dump the drinks and return them. You got it. And so when you return them, your fingers are straight back. And when you dump them, your fingers are straight down. Now, very slowly do that with your right hand and take your left ear towards left shoulder. And slowly return. Let's just do 2 like that. Remember, this is the one that really tweaked out my car accident injury and my trigeminal nerve stuff. Again, it's a weird, rare thing, so I don't expect that to happen to like you guys, but I know a lot of people who've had whiplash and so on, so this is slow, and I only usually do a few with the head, and then the rest without. All right, and let's find the other side. Always let me know if you've got questions, any part isn't making sense. Get that hand as flexed as you can through the wrist. That's going to give you the most effect as you slowly dump your drinks. Ooh, doggy. And then bring it back up. Sometimes I'm just so surprised. Like, I had no idea my left was so much tighter. And I'm like, what did I do with my left side that would explain that? I have no idea. And again, at some point, hold, and again, make sure that the fingers are straight down as you're doing this, and then you're not rotating the look to the right, you're lowering your ear towards the right shoulder, and then bringing it back up. Is this side different? And so something to just know, I mean, this is, you guys know I have a body that's a whole bundle of interesting issues, so I never say these things with judgment, right? This is what it is to be human. But if you go to bring your ear towards your shoulder and you get like an inch over, you've got hella tension going on in the side of your neck. And it's, what's interesting, of course, too, because everything is rotational in the body, that's going to affect your ability to rotate laterally as well. So often when people can't, they're like, yeah, I can't look behind me to back up my car or my truck anymore, and they just think it's like right at the, occipital, or they think whatever it is they think. It's all of it. It's the web of stuff that comes up and holds your head, right? So I just want you to take notice of that. We're going to come into some warriors, and what I would ask of you is to continually do like organic movement with the head, and never hold it in a place where you feel tension building, right? Historically, we were all taught to do warrior 2 and try and, look forward. Well, for a lot of people, that's actually going to tighten up that chain. Now, if you can move in and out of your range of motion, maybe no problem, all right? So I really want you to play here. Same thing with arms. Anytime you want to flex down or up, in fact, just standing here, play with that, right? If you turn your palms down and you then point your fingers down, nice stretch through those forearms, those of you who've been beading, pressure washing, golfing, quilting, what else? Holding babies and grandbabies, right? So anytime you can do joint rolling or kind of in and out with wrists and ankles, it's really better, right? We're going to come sideways under our mat in our nice big straddle stance. And first, we're just going to do lower body because I want us to all check in with that part, and then we'll do that both sides, and then we'll return and add arms. So first, just right foot rotates 90. It's the power and anchoring through that back foot and leg, and you should be completely straight as you push, that sends your hips forward. Okay, nice. If that knee is not completely straight, you are putting it in danger. Okay, you're putting pressure on it. I want you to just pulse here. I've got my hands on my hips as just a security, that if something intense happens, I can be like, ooh. Okay, and just hold at your edge. Think about externally rotating those thighs. We talked about this last week, where it can even help to take your hands to tell those thighs to rotate. This should fire up that right butt cheek pretty well. All right, let's come up, straddle, left foot rotating. Again, if something, isn't jiving, you're unsure, please let me know. Power through that back leg. If you are not pushing with that back leg, you're putting it at risk. Imagine I've got like a piece of paper or something under your blade of your foot, and I want you to squish it so it won't blow away. And if your front knee is trying to go past your heel, you actually need a bigger stance. All right, and hold and breathe, and then come on back, and we'll bend knees and fold a moment. If you like side to side, go for it. There's also this wonderful side to side that has a name that I keep forgetting, that you can just drop and let one leg straighten out, toes towards the ceiling. I love that. Gets into that inner hamstring, which, man, when we weeded for a couple hours the other night, because I don't really typically weed very much, and it was an athletic event, I felt that for like 3 days. All right, come on up, nice hands to thighs, deep breath. If you'd like, you might come into the 5-pointed star. I love how that fires up that back line. Ah, lovely. Let's turn that right foot 90 again. Go to your edge in Warrior 2, checking all those alignments of anchoring, thigh rotation. Ideally, your crown directly floating above your tailbone or pubic bone. And let's add those arms out. And maybe you're, again, looking one direction and then another, or just holding straight to the side. Rotating palms, flexing through wrists. And of course, you can pulse. You don't have to hold in your deepest lunge, but I'm going to ask you to find 3 slow, deep, and wide breaths here. Like an extra balance challenge, close your eyes. On a long inhale, drop your back arm and reach up. Exalted Warrior, both legs straight. Reach up, feel that juicy, straight, long line through that front arm and waist. You got it. Bringing that elbow to the thigh. Reach that left hand forward. Get that side stretch there. Again, where does your head need to face for comfort? What would happen again if you flex through the hand, point, etc. And then we're going to let everything flop into our straddle. So just let that arm come down, rotate the foot, and hang. Again, you can go side to side, whatever exploration. Breathing slow, deep, and wide. Good. Nice big inhale, exhale, come on up, cat back. 5-pointed star, light up that line. Is there anybody who, like, when I'm like, light up that back body or whatever, you're like, I have no idea what she's talking about? You'd tell me, right? Good, good. Yeah, I'm just hoping you're really feeling contraction through the back body. So if you think about, like, even bringing your shoulder blades a little towards each other, squeezing your butt cheeks, but not through the neck, right? Good, let that come down. That feels good. Bring that left foot 90. And go right to your edge. It all starts with that back foot. Root. Press, subtle hips forward. Head is just floating beautifully atop the spine. Thighs externally rotating until you feel that left butt cheek light up. Do a push. And you have it in straight, which is the really critical piece, so that's awesome. Looking good. Point, flex, roll, breathe, and maybe close your eyes. When we challenge our balance, it's an amazing massage for brain and nervous system. On a long inhale, when it comes, straighten that front leg, Exalted Warrior. Squeeze those butt cheeks. You don't have to look up, you can look down. Breathe and notice. And then slowly forward, lateral stretch, elbow to thigh. Remember, we want to keep our right shoulder back over our left. And then reach that top arm out beyond the head. And just notice, can you bring your shoulder back a little further? Often when I do that, I'll get like a chiropractic adjustment. Deep breath from the roots of your feet all the way to your fingertips. And then when you're ready, come on out, straddle. I'm going to ask you to notice what your body needs. Are you craving full dog series or any part of it? I know a lot of people like that flow. And sometimes people are like, really? Who likes that? See, this is why I offer options. But either way, I'd love you to come into just what feels like a good recovery from those warriors. It might be just a nice rag doll. It might be laying on your back, knees to belly. We will be coming onto the floor. That's where we're headed. Yeah, maybe you're like, ooh, balancing. I want tree pose. I'm ready for tree pose. Take all the time in the world. We're going to be coming into a few minutes of meditation, and ideally being seated would be great, but being seated in a way that really is comfortable for your joints and where you can get mostly upright in your spine. So one really beautiful way would be up against the wall, because then you get a little support from behind. Another way to release some of that issue of ankles, knees, and hips that we often come up against if we're in cross-legged is to simply go out into a straddle. That can be just lovely. And so one thing I do when I'm meditating is my hand position. Now there's two distinct ones that I will use, okay? One is with the palms rotated up, and if you can just touch your thumb and index finger together and let the other fingers be straight. If you've ever seen the statue of Kuan Yin, who's the female bodhisattva, female image of Buddha, we've talked about her. It's really cool. She's one of my favorite kind of bodhisattvas or Buddha images. She's known for hearing the cries of the world. So she's the goddess of compassion, basically. And Kuan Yin. Well, it gets spelled differently. Sometimes it's Q-U-A-N, sometimes it's K, and then Y-I-N. And she will then take her hand, she'll have her left hand open to the universe, and then the right one down. The left is your receiving hand energetically. We've done this before, even in just warrior hands. So the idea is she's receiving all of the suffering, the cries of the world, etc. And then with this hand, basically channeling it down into the earth and so on. So she's the conduit to be able to transform and receive suffering. So that can be kind of a neat thing to do, just especially if you are particularly feeling cognizant of suffering in the world, and that you don't really even know how to process it fully. The left is up and right is down. Yep, so the receiving hand and then the giving hand. Sometimes I'll actually just settle both hands up as just a broadening through my heart. And then another thing I do, like right now, a lot of my meditation I'm doing on my deck in my hanging chair. It's the right height for me. Is just what they call the heart calming mudra. And this shows up, I learned it in feng shui, it shows up in yoga, get so much of that stuff. Process is left palm in right, and then the thumbs just lightly connected. This is, by the way, a really nice, speaking of body neutral, because this is what we're working on. One of our challenges is standing, right? You're like having a conversation like this, all on neutral. But it feels super awkward to be like, hello, how are you today? I am in mountain pose, right? Who's going to say like that? So what I do often is especially like when I'm presenting too, I've done this a lot, but is just the heart calming mudra. And you're like, yeah, I was thinking about it. And I might shift my weight from foot to foot, but without collapsing and cocking, right? So you can still kind of shift versus standing at military attention, but notice that I'm not actually cocking or dropping. I'm in my glutes, I'm in my thighs, and you can broaden your heart the whole time and be upright and open versus the things that people do, like high, So anyway, it's kind of fun to translate this stuff into standing. You can also, if you are a person who likes being cross-legged, but you notice that, if you do that, you're like holding on and you're kind of rounded through your back. We really want to be straight from sits bones to crown. So sometimes coming up on an object like this will give you enough space to be neutral. Pretty much you want your knees straight forward of your hips. If they're higher, you're going to have a tendency to hold, and now you're just recreating tight front, tight back without the alignment. And then lastly, of course, we play with this. So whatever position you're in your base, please slowly find what feels like neutral as you just slide your chin forward and back. minutes, and then I'll be inviting you with the chime of the bowl to either continue or to recline into your Shavasana for about 5 minutes. Once again, cross your eyes up and in, third eye. Keep scanning the breath wave, rising and settling. Where do you feel fabric moving against your skin? body, for this exact moment, just try to picture a beautiful harmony between front and back. So just invite those parts of the body to kind of communicate and check in with each other and realize, of course, that they connect through the center. So it's not really two sides of a thing. It's the outer limits of the sort of 360 tube that we are. As you choose to re-enter the room that we share, and then the heat of the day out there, inviting you to just, again, carry with you this idea of trying to soften into the moments versus like, right? And find beauty in it. The beauty of being alive, to be here to experience this, and frankly to have all of the protection and nourishment that we have in our homes and our cars and clothing and protective gear. It's pretty blessed way to live. I'm glad to get to share it with you. Thank you so much for coming today and sharing this practice at FLC. I will be here again this Thursday evening. So we will see you. Otherwise, please feel free to sign up for classes at Third Mountain for next week. Just pop me a text if we have a heat wave that continues like this and this isn't full. I will be back here. So 90 is my tipping point. I will say that egg salad makes an amazing summer snack. I love having it actually on toast in the morning, but it's a great lunch or dinner if you're like, oh, I don't want to get the house hot. Just make that egg salad in the morning and you're ready to rock. I think I've got 6 dozen here today, so thanks for being here, y'all.
There we come on. There we go. Hi.
Hey, Jeannie, it was great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Awesome.
See you next week.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.